But the real miracle happened 2.5 years ago when I joined the Real Producers team and started interviewing real estate titans in the DFW Metroplex and sitting in front of them and hearing their stories. And oftentimes they would ask me, hey, how did you get to Real Producers? Tell me about you. What's your background? And when I would tell them that I was in media and did the news for many years, they would, many of them, not all of them, but many of them would say to me, oh my gosh, I'm terrified of the camera. I could never do, I know I'm supposed to do video. My coach tells me I'm supposed to do video as real estate agents, and I don't do it, and I know I'm supposed to, and I'm scared to death of the camera. Well, one of my favorite lines in a movie, it came out of Robots, was see a need, fill a need. And I used to try this on my teenagers. See that trash over there? See a need, fill a need. And they would never do it. And they were like, nope, not doing the trash. But as I sat in front of these people, I realized this is a thing.
Next level, come and take a ride.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Next Level Thinkers, a Charting New Horizons of Brilliance podcast. In the fast-paced world of entrepreneurship, few individuals manage to seamlessly blend their personal journey with a mission to empower others. Julie Altemus is one of those rare leaders. With a career spanning media, coaching, and entrepreneurship, Julie has made it her mission to help others find their voice, break through barriers, and step into their brilliance. Julie's journey is built on resilience and faith. She started as an Emmy-winning journalist and transitioned to a speaker and coach in 2017. That same year, she founded Rise to Shine to help entrepreneurs, especially those over 40, gain confidence on camera and improve their media presence. Through her work, Julie perfectly reflects the Next Level Thinkers podcast mission, turning challenges into opportunities and unlocking hidden potential. Julie, it's a pleasure to have you on Next Level Thinkers, a Charting New Horizons of Brilliance podcast. You know, as a podcast host and someone who lends their platform to have people emote their voice and to empower them to use their voice, I was at home just a few days, and I saw a video of you pop up and how you were coaching people how to use their voice and how to maximize the experience that they can use to promote their purpose, mission, and passion.
Yes.
And it was really, first of all, it was inspiring, number one. Number two, it was like, there we go, we got something in common. And I got to get Julie on this podcast. I never pushed, hey, this is short notice. But this was one of those opportunities, rare opportunities, like I said. She has a message that you probably need to hear, number one, I need to hear, the audience needs to hear, and something that you need to say so that people around your circles can appreciate the value you're bringing to the community and to the world. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you on Next Level Thinkers, for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Before we start, let's talk about, let's share a little bit about your background.
Wow, so my background, I can tell you where all of this stems from, and that was exactly this, my background. So childhood was rough. I'm 15 years old. I remember sobbing on the side of my bed saying, I don't have any confidence. And this is, crying beside my mom, I don't have any self-confidence. And she says, I don't know why, you're such a beautiful young lady. Beauty has nothing to do with confidence. And so I realized nobody was going to pick me up by the bootstraps and teach me about confidence and teach me about self-worth unless I did the hard work and the hard steps. So I started doing hard things one at a time. The beautiful thing about being young is you do crazy things and you don't have any fear, typically. Don't have any fear, right?
Yeah.
Today we're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. It might hurt my bank account or my relationships, friendships, whatever. So I just started doing hard things. And when I say hard things, I auditioned for a private school, performing arts high school here in Dallas, Booker T. Washington. It's not an easy school to get in. And I got in and it changed my life. Wow. I don't know if you remember the show Fame so long ago, decades ago, but it was like that. And I studied piano there and was a concert level pianist by the time I graduated. And then auditioned for Miss Dallas, never having any pageant experience before, and then go to SMU. I'm just a little girl in Lake Highlands with a mother's income at hairdresser level. There was, how am I going to go to SMU? but I did, and helped pay for that with 3 jobs, and then just started putting one foot in front of the other, went into broadcasting, landed my first television job, not knowing what I was doing at all. And I realized back then they didn't have the technology that we do today. So literally, I took a recorder, pushed play and record, and tried to copy the news, like typed out. This is back in the day when you had to type out on a typewriter the news script so that I could practice. And that's when I realized I sounded exactly like this. And I thought, you cannot do the news if you sound like a country bumpkin. So I thought, oh no, we have to fix this. So I started working on the dialect a little bit at a time. I did the news for a long time, and then retired, only because the city that I was working for here in the DFW Metroplex decided to just take a pivot with the news programming. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do with my talents? I know I'm great at media. I've been doing this a long time in communications. What else can I do? And in 2017, like you were just mentioning, that's when I got certified with John C. Maxwell to be a speaker, a trainer, and a coach. And that's when my life went in a completely different direction.
Wow, that is so amazing. I mean, just the part where I love what you said about, looks don't equate to confidence, because it's someone who I don't know, but I just say when someone says that, it means a lot, because it has a lot of weight, and understanding that your environment and the environment you're being raised in can be a challenge for you. You can be like, how do I get this confidence for myself? But for you stepped up to every challenge, metric that you wanted to face, and now you've had 17 years in a business that you had no experience. That's amazing. Let me ask you a question. How did you identify the unique intersection of these passions and transform them into a thriving career?
Yes. So learning how to intersect something that you're good at and that you're passionate about and make a career out of that was accidental. And I'll tell you, when I was saying that in 2017 I became certified with John Maxwell as a speaker, trainer, and coach, when I graduated out of that program and did the work, I thought, okay, what's next? And literally that same year, I put all these images on my dream board, and I am walking out the very last dream come true as we speak. And it was so beautiful how God spoke to me and just affirmed my steps along the way and showed me those exact pictures in random places that had been on that board that I just randomly got off of the internet and matched those photos. But the real miracle happened 2.5 years ago when I joined the Real Producers team and started interviewing real estate titans in the DFW Metroplex and sitting in front of them and hearing their stories. And oftentimes they would ask me, hey, how did you get to Real Producers? Tell me about you. What's your background? And when I would tell them that I was in media and did the news for many years, they would, many of them, not all of them, but many of them would say to me, oh my gosh, I'm terrified of the camera. I could never do. I know I'm supposed to do video. My coach tells me I'm supposed to do video as real estate agents, and I don't do it, and I know I'm supposed to, and I'm scared to death of the camera. Well, one of my favorite lines in a movie, it came out of Robots, was see a need, fill a need. And I used to try this on my teenagers. See that trash over there? See a need, fill a need. And they would never do it. And they were like, nope, not doing the trash. But as I sat in front of these people, I realized this is a thing. This is a real thing. And I understood then that people had A, an identity crisis, and B, didn't feel worthy. Because if you knew who you were and you felt worthy, all it would take was a little bit of training in front of the camera. But what I learned was they had, some of them, severe dislike for how they looked on camera, how they appeared on camera, and a fear of criticism from the public. And I thought, I can help this. I can do this, because I had done the hard work of self-confidence. I had done the hard work of all the training and the coaching and the speaking on stages and then being in media. So that's actually when I started Rise to Shine. And I thought, I'm going to make a difference in people's lives. I'm going to help them cross that barrier of having no self-confidence and no worth and struggling with identity. And I'm coming for you. And we're going to make it happen.
That is amazing. I love the fact that you said, that, I don't know what movie that See a Need, Fill in Me.
Robots.
Okay, Robots, that's it. I mean, that is like so perfect. I understand as a media person myself, who produces content and have a media company myself, giving people that confidence and instilling them that confidence to take that extra step. And you've also talked about how you accidentally fell on it. Do you think it was accidentally? I always have this saying as I accidentally happened on I made something happen on purpose.
This is a great question. I don't think anything is accidental, but I didn't realize this until this is very recent. Well, I mean, yes, I understood what was happening. I am a believer at the core. I'm a Christian, and my faith just bubbles over because I can't help it. I had such a massive transformation in my life and so much healing from childhood disappointments and things that I just can't help but talk about it. But the beautiful thing is I was sitting in front of this lady who's also a speaker, and she said, "Do you realize that you have been sitting in front of people for the last 2.5 years, harvesting information for this moment, for such a time as this?"
Wow.
And it just almost made me cry because you can see the beauty of what God was doing all along the way. And do I think things are accidental? No, I think they're divine, actually. But it was accidental to me. Who knew? I wasn't saying, hey, let's go join role producers and interview a bunch of people so I can have this divine moment, this divine opportunity and harvest information. No, it wasn't that. But I think, I always say this to my kids, you know, the next opportunity, the next thing that you do is just the next great lily pad to the great purpose and destiny that you have for your life. And so now I'm in a position where I can help people step into their fullness and step into the purpose of everything that God designed them to be. Because we are not accidents.
Yeah.
We were divinely crafted by the hand of God,
Amen.
right? And so getting people to understand that and believe that about themselves is the magical thing that I get to do.
Awesome. This is, I'm like, wow, it's weird because we kind of have, learning as I'm sitting here listening to you, like you're saying, taking in that information, how much is in common we have, just from life before we were talking a bit off camera about some things, and your transition into this media space and how you downloaded that information. That is so cool. As we sit down and get people in front of us, right? When you give some advice about how they can break through that, what is one or two pieces of advice that you give people when you're saying, hey, look, I always say that when people are sitting in this chair, when they go back and listen to themselves, they'll learn more about themselves, right? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I believe when you sit and you tell your story and your testimony, you absolutely learn things about yourself. And if I could identify one or two things that I help people do, that is, first of all, identify the fear. What is it that you dislike? What is it about being on camera makes you feel uncomfortable? And I get a slew of answers, but I can tell you the common thread is they dislike the way that they look. So they're picking themselves apart on the exterior aesthetically. And number two, they have deep fear of criticism from other people on the other side of the camera. And sometimes they don't even know who the people are on the other side of the camera. It could be the internet world. But if you start digging a little bit deeper, I just went through a coaching session with a young lady several weeks ago, and I said, let's get really granular. What is it that you're afraid of? And she said, being criticized of people, on the other side of the camera. And I said, okay, who are the people? And so she said, well, I said, is it just your customer, your client, your ideal client? Actually, no. And when we got way more granular, she had fear of being criticized from her family about launching herself into a coaching career. And I said, well, your family's not the people that buy from you.
Yeah.
So then what are you afraid of? And she was just sat there and was like, like she had this huge aha moment.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting granular, definitely that, and discovering what those fears are and see how we can change those things, because we cannot change without doing it in specifics.
Yeah.
We have to be able to identify the thing before we can actually have transformation.
Why you having this obstacle, right?
Right.
That's awesome. I'm like, wow, you got a wealth of information that just resonates with me. So you're gonna see me probably get stuck a couple of minutes because I'm like, holy cow, you're like hitting on these pain points with individuals that are actually, when you think about pain points, how can you break through this person? How can you make this person become a vessel, to emote what people want to hear from them, right?
Yes.
Like I always say that, like, there's enough famous people. So there's a lot. I read this book. It was The Genius in Christ, or The Genius in Christ, and he talks about how every one of us has a genius is dying to come out and be pushed out forward. So when I hear you saying how you're doing it, it's like amazing. It's really amazing. What do you think? What is one of the common barriers that high achievers face when they're ready to take their personal and professional growth to the next level?
So one of the barriers in taking your professional and your personal life to the next level is, and actually when you're talking about high achievers, I would even beg to differ that there's almost not a barrier other than just overcoming your own mindset if you really have to dig deep, because a lot of us have imposter syndrome. We want to go to the next level, we want to do that next thing, we have these big dreams in our heart, but there's this something standing in our way with this little tiny gremlin of a voice, which you and I understand what that is, that is not true. That you can do that thing, you can break through that barrier, you can be everything that you were destined and purposed to be, but you have to believe it. And so even in my own, I actually was in of all things, like a church meeting, if you will, a couple weeks ago at this house, and I made a comment, and it wasn't even about a professional comment. It was more of a spiritual comment, and he looked right at me, and this man was very gifted. He can see things I can't see in the spiritual world. And he looked at me and he said, "You have limiting beliefs, and you see everybody else doing these things and you wonder why you can't do them." And I'm like, oh, he was in my head, get out of my head. And it is so true of all of us. But and I loved the comment that he said, because I was like, well, we're all done with that. Because I'm not going to have that in my life. That means there's a barrier then between me and the way that God purposed me. That means I can't do things. And I know that's directly contrary to I can do all things with Christ, right? With God, all things are possible. So I would say if there's a barrier of any sort, it's just that imposter syndrome in the mindset of believing that you can do the thing that you actually want to go for.
Yeah. Wow. When I first started, when I first was watching you on the clips that you put out on Facebook and stuff, the first part, in I would say the first reactionary part is and I'm going to ask you this question, but the reactionary part is like, well, don't have you wouldn't want to put that person on your podcast because y'all are, you're this is what you do, you know what I mean? This is what you're good at, right? It's like two carpet cleaning businesses on the same street competing for business, right? Or we're competition. But it was so important for me to have you on this podcast to, first of all, we share the same mission, we share the same dream, we share the same purpose and mission and amplifying voices amplifying voices, and so I said, but the knee-jerk reaction is sharing space with people, is having that willingness to. Why do you think that's so important? That people, individuals like us who host podcasts, have other podcasters or have other content creators on their platform to push to send a message.
I think it's so important to surround ourselves with people that have similar interests as well as not, but similar interests, because each of us are gifted in a very unique way. God didn't make us all alike. In fact, I was standing in a school not that long ago full of young, aspiring, they were all junior high and high school kids, all girls school in downtown Dallas, and I said, I want you to look at your finger and hold up your finger and turn it around. I want you to look at the back of your finger and understand that nobody else in the whole world has that fingerprint, that you are so unique. And so surrounding ourselves by other people who are like-minded, and then outside of those like-minded groups, we have to spur each other on. We get it, we understand one another, and I don't know about you, but I'm supercharged by people like yourself and other people that I am in mentorship groups with, because we're all at different levels. And the only way that we are going to climb that ladder and be all that we can be is through mentorship.
Yeah.
And I need mentorship in my life. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not at the top of my game. I'll be at the top of my game when I'm in glory, right? On the other side of heaven. Until then, I'm still growing and I'm learning every day. Yeah. And there's way more room for me to perfect what I do and who I work with and my message and my business and my professional life, spiritual life, physical life, all of that, and I need people to gather around me with like-mindedness.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think the same way. I think we're mentoring each other in some capacity right now. Just having each other. You say two or more together, you have a church.
Yes.
It's like and I really appreciate this conversation because it comes down to how do you amplify, how do you get people to use their voice, and how do you get them to emote the things that are going on, the beautiful things that are going on the inside their heart.
Yes.
With your work at Rise to Shine, you focus on media presence for entrepreneurs over 40. Why do you think so many professionals struggle with video content on and off camera, on camera confidence, and what particular strategies can you help them break through? I think you mentioned a few, but.
Yes. So helping people over 40 has become a passion for me in terms of their camera confidence, because we are the people that didn't grow up with cell phones in our hands.
Yeah.
There's a huge gap with right about that age group and then under, where the younger generation did grow up with a cell phone in their hand. It is no problem for them to have selfies, although funny enough, the selfie group, I just was interviewing a photographer Wednesday, and he said actually the selfie group, like the people that are in high school and college and all that, are the people that are the most uncomfortable on a real camera set. Okay, we're gonna take a portrait of you, and they're like, oh my gosh, no, like they're so selfie driven. Whereas we grew up in Olin Mills. I don't even know if you all remember that old
Glamour.
glamour shots and all the things. And so we're like not so great with the selfie thing, but can pull off of a portrait mode all day long. But that's the group that feels the most uncomfortable. And when we were talking about helping people step into their fullness and all that they were purposed to be, I understand there's a lot of people out there that are doing their purpose and they absolutely feel fulfilled and they don't need to be on camera. But I'm not talking, that's not my people. That's not the people that I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help the people that are entrepreneurs, that are video shy, and online digital creators that want to be on camera. They're coaches, they're course creators, they're YouTube content creators, and they need to get over that hump because they didn't grow up with that cell phone in their hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so as you were talking, I was thinking about how like everybody wants to be inspired by somebody we know. You know what I mean? And and people, I've had individuals say, somebody told me one time, say, Rush, I love the fact that you go out in that core community, you just like, you're not like looking for, the top tier already there, that have the platform, you're looking for everyday people to bring them in and have them share their story. Do you think it's true that you want to be inspired from one of your friends on Facebook, right? And you hope one day that person just, tears down the walls and amplifies their voice in a beautiful way. Do you agree with that statement? Do you feel that that's true?
Yes, I feel like that's true. Just surrounding ourselves in a place where we can hear other people's voices, other people's stories. And there are people that I look up to that I am actually in their membership. I have a membership, but I look up to them who I am in their membership, because I think to myself, they were just me one time. Or they were just me 10 years ago, or whatever it is. And look where they are now. If they can do it, so can I. And so, yes, I absolutely agree with that. And then just helping people, you know what? There's a saying that if you have a 10% edge on someone else, you're an expert.
Wow.
And so who out there in my world has a 10% edge on me, and I'm absolutely going to learn from them, and I actually follow those people, and I subscribe to their emails and all that, and they're in my group, my genre, if you will, with the whole media and camera confidence and making great videos and all that, because look, they're a little bit ahead of me, and that's where I want to go, and I'm going to learn from them.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's part of the reason you're probably here today is because I'm like, God placed us together. We said I'm gonna put you right in front of this person, and you're gonna invite her, and we're gonna grow. We're gonna learn. I told you before this, like when I'm listening, I'm growing. And I think it's so cool that there are people that I look at and say, just people want to be inspired by you, man. Like like you say, your mom said when you were a child, you're the most beautiful child. And people have that expectation that this person should have, not have these insecurities or anything like that, right? But once you break through that barrier, and God shows you the majesty that's in your heart and soul, it's like, okay, that person, that now the inward beauty is coming out any morning now.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes, yes, yes.
that's what I appreciated even more about watching your content online, as I was listening to the inward beauty that was coming out of an outwardly beautiful vessel. So I appreciate that for sure.
Awesome. I can give God a high five on that one.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah.
can take no credit.
I know. I remember when I got into the podcasting, people were like, Rush, what are you doing? Like, what's this deal with this microphone thing? You know, it's like, because I was stoic, you know, like focused, dialed in, 0 dark 30 kind of guy, you know, like, hey, you know. But once I started breaking those walls down and getting back to the person I had been before being deployed, it was like, this is the essence of who you are at the core. So do you believe people have to get that, they have to work through some of those traumatic experiences for them to truly flourish on camera?
Yes, I believe people have to break through some mindset blockages, yes.
Yeah.
And some people have to overcome some trauma. In fact, that I feel so passionate about that. Not just in my personal business, but also in spiritually. So I'm putting myself in a course and training with a mentor in 2025 where I'm going to walk people through deliverance and help them.
Wow.
And I think that's going to open up a whole nother world for me, because I'm going to really understand way more than I do now. I think I know things at this level. That's going to take me to a whole nother level. That's because that's how passionate I am about whoever the greatness is, whatever the greatness is on the inside needs to come out on the outside. And I think there are a lot of traumatic blockages in there. I had them for years, and then I learned how to overcome them one at a time, pretty much by myself, because I don't think mentorship and coaching was as big of a thing back then as it is now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm aware of it, but I just feel like every time you turn around, there's a coach for something.
Yeah.
Health and wellness, or working out, or eating, or whatever, business coaching. And I wish I had a coach when I got into broadcasting, so I would know what to do with myself.
Do with these hands with
What am I going to do with my hands? And how am I going to stand? And oh my,
Yeah.
I sound terrible. And we have to fix all this. And so I just, taught myself. But yeah, I just really want people to thrive and flourish. And in order to do that, they have to get over that trauma stuff.
Yeah, I love that. When we first started, you asked me, have you ever experienced deliverance, right? And I remember I was in California one time, and I was going through my process, and a friend of mine, we were having dinner together, and she's like, Rush, you've been redeemed, you've been delivered. The last one is, have you been anointed? Like, have you been anointed? And going through that journey of deliverance, when I hear you say deliverance, it's like, oh yeah, I've been delivered. But are you anointed? Are you anointed? You know, as the next phase is, how do I answer that question? You know, how do you think people reach that point where they're like, I'm anointed to carry this mantle, to host a podcast, to lead this charge? How do you know people get to that place when, you know what I mean, that challenging moment where it's like, I got this, I'm going to do this?
I think people can walk in an anointing or just walk in their own flesh. And what I mean by that, because there might be some listeners out there who don't understand what I mean, is there's a very specific difference when God calls you to do something and you feel like you're being called to do something and you're listening for God's still small voice. And I say still small voice, that doesn't mean I hear God talk to me out loud. You know, people ask me that sometimes. They're like, is that what you mean? No, but just that still small voice inside of me. And then you could do anything you want to. I could go do a podcast today and start 3 others if I wanted to, but I don't want to get ahead of God. Because if I get ahead of God, that means I'm going to walk in unhappiness. It means I'm going to walk in unfulfillment. It means I'm going to waste a whole lot of time, and at the end of the day, God's going to take me full circle and bring me right back front and center for where I was supposed to be. So if you're a person that is a Christian and you listen to the Lord and you spend time and have quiet time and read your Bible and all the things, and you're doing things God's way, then that's different. Then the anointing is His. If you're doing things in the flesh because you just can, And not everything has to be because God called you, but I just think there's a lot more fulfillment and happiness there.
Yeah.
When we do things in the flesh, for people that don't know God, that don't have a relationship with God, and they're just going along, I can guarantee you there's a lot of those folks walking around not feeling fulfilled. They don't understand why, because maybe they feel like, I have the job, I have the money, I have this beautiful family, and yet suicide rate is at an all-time high. And it's not just for the military, it's overall.
Yeah.
There's something missing inside of them, and all the things, all the money. Let me tell you this story really quickly.
Yeah, go right ahead.
That's hinged on the anointing. I interviewed somebody this last year. I actually just shared this on social media a few days ago without naming any names, who sold $50 million worth of real estate previous year, by himself, which is pretty much unheard of. Because if you're selling $50 million worth of real estate, you're typically on a team, and you've got all this. Okay, well, there wasn't all this. This was a person that had head down, I don't do anything else but eat, sleep, and sell real estate. And so I asked the person if I could just take off my hat for a minute, my real producer's hat, my work hat, and would it be okay if I asked you a personal question? I never just want to jump in and ask people personal questions without their permission. And this person said, sure. And so I said, I really just felt led to pray for you. And I said, I know that might sound strange because I knew this person, wasn't at the same faith level as me. And I said, but I just feel led to pray for you. And I said, if you could wave a magic wand and I could pray for anything for you, what would it be? And he said, oh, he got so antsy in his seat, just like oh Lord, he's just all, wiggling around and whatever. And after he got composure, that made him so uncomfortable. But after he got composure, he said, will you just pray for me, please, that I would feel beautiful?
Wow.
And I thought, okay, here's a person that has lots of money, and here's a person who's very successful in real estate, but yet when it all comes down to it, the person doesn't feel worthy on the inside.
Yeah.
So I don't think the word anointed can be thrown around lightly, because I feel like anointing comes from God.
Yeah.
And so you can step into his will and you can do the things that you feel called to do, and you'll find a lot of fulfillment there. You go out from underneath that umbrella and you're in trouble. Yeah. I just think you're going to be treading water.
Yeah. Wow, you're right. Worth and anointing, it's one of those things, I'm so happy God called me to say, hey, you know what? Get her on this podcast so she has some valuable information to share, and so that you can, put that out. And not only that, so I can learn. So this is a valuable experience. I want to let you know that right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're quite welcome. Okay, we hear a lot about the importance of work-life balance. But for high achievers, how do you personally manage the demands of growing a business while staying grounded in your values and well-being?
How do I stay grounded in my well-being and the whole work-life balance? I will tell you every day that's an intentional decision. And because I'm an extrovert and I'm a speaker and I host a podcast and I interview people all the time, and then there's my family, taking care of my mother who has dementia, being married and trying to be a responsible wife, being a parent when my children call me and they need me. That sucks a lot of life out of you. And so I have to be very intentional about making sure that I am grounded, that I am intentional about my own time, and I have to recharge my batteries. That's what I call it. I have to recharge my batteries every morning. And I am the most slowpoke person you have ever met in your life. In the mornings, I get up at 5, and by 7, I've done nothing but drank tea and sat in silence. And I'm like, what happened to the last 2 hours? My goodness. But that's exactly what I do. I get up, I make myself, I go through phases. My phase right now is make myself a London fog, which is my treat with my Earl Grey tea and my little foam milk in there or whatever. And I sit in my chair, this is going to sound weird, in my closet, sit in my chair, and I have a little light that comes up over my shoulder, and I read my Bible and I pray. That has to be first. And if I don't do that, and then get in my bathtub and sit another 30 minutes and stare into space because I'm still not awake, if I don't do those things, I'm just nasty. And I don't mean to my family, but I mean just all on the inside. I feel like the Tasmanian devil, just always like fussing.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big complainer out loud, but I mean, and then even the small things will catch you off guard. Like I remember one day, I'm going to tell on myself. This is a terrible story. Do not do what I'm about to tell you.
Do not
I
do
did.
this at home.
Do
Whatever.
not do this. Right? Do not try this. Like they
Try
always
this at
give
home.
those
Yeah,
disclaimers.
Don't try this at home.
I'm driving down the highway one morning, and I was in unfamiliar territory. And so my lane is about to run out. I didn't know that it was going to run out until all of a sudden it was. And so I put my blinker on to get over, and the one car didn't let me over, and the second car didn't let me over either. And I'm from here to the wall next to you, which is about 20 feet from hitting a cement embankment.
Wow.
And I slammed those brakes on. At the time when this happened, I was singing a worship song in the car. And I slammed those brakes on, and I look at this lady who is not going to let me over, realizing like I'm staring at a cement wall, and I went into cuss mode. I went into middle finger mode. I went into all kinds of things right in the middle of a praise song. And then I realized what happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh Lord, I am so sorry. Like, please forgive me. I was right there praising, and all of a sudden in a snap, I just got nasty. And that's just part of gave a great analogy one time. Whatever's on the inside of a water bottle, if you go shake it, or a cup, you go shake it, whatever spills out on the outside is what's on the inside. So I think there's just that little bit of rumbling because we're so overwhelmed. Just constant barrage of information and duties and responsibilities and marriage and family and work and all the things you're trying to balance. And it's not an easy balancing game, but I would just say, for me, I have to be intentional, and if not, my whole world just gets upside down.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to take a picture of how my setup is at home. You're gonna be like, what? Like, because that closet thing, I wake up at 5. We might be doing the same thing, except I don't do the bathtub thing. But I might try it now. Take that advice from you and see how that helps me out. I start the same exact way, actually. Almost. Except for the tea, but I don't drink coffee regularly, but it takes a little that like groundedness too for me as well. Looking into the future, what do you see as the biggest trend in entrepreneurship, and how can professionals and business owners start preparing for it now?
So the biggest trend I see in entrepreneurship is going to look a lot different depending on which entrepreneurial position you have, right? So restaurateurs, for example, theirs is going to be way different than the entrepreneurial journey that I'm on. The biggest trend for media is video. 82% of internet traffic now is is video, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And then 124 billion, and that was just this year, was projected to be spent on video marketing. And beyond, it's just going to keep growing. COVID changed everything. It was already on an upward trend, but video is going to change everything. And then I heard Gary Vee, I don't know if you know who he is, talking a couple of days ago, and he said, all the shopping, all of the online shopping that we're seeing all the girls do, like all the Amazon things now, trying on the outfits and all that, and Amazon now has something, not that this is a big Amazon promotion, but they have like a QVC kind of thing where you're selling online with products. Wow. And so again, it comes down to being on camera.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to be relatable on camera in order for people to like you, because just because you're there doesn't mean it's going to move the needle in your business. So I think for entrepreneurs, it just looks different. But at the end of the day, if you want to be successful, whether you're a restaurant owner or you're a dentist, you're a doctor or an online creator, you really do have to take advantage of the free platforms that are out there, and that's your social platforms.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking advantage of the social platforms and putting yourself out there, then you better be doing email marketing campaigns with video in them so that you stay relevant and you stay top of mind, because this world is getting so competitive. And I don't know about you, but every time I log on to Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, I'm getting fed another ad. And I actually don't mind ads because they're relevant to me, because I've been intentional about that too. When I see an ad and I like it, I'm like, yeah, sure, I would love to do iPhone photography school. It's just not right now. So I hit a like on the ad so that I keep seeing the ad, because one day I'm going to jump in and probably purchase it. It's just not a right now decision.
Yeah. Okay, Julie, what do you got working? What do you got working? What do you offer? How can people get a hold of you and that kind of thing?
Yes. So, man, I feel like I have birthed a baby. What have I been working on? I feel like I have birthed a baby. This year has been such an explosion of personal growth for me and business and professional growth. I developed a membership which actually went international, and that surprised me. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to develop a membership for people that need camera confidence, and I can love on them and have a live community where I can go in and do live coaching for people and in a group setting. So I started that. And then secondly, I built a course. And the course has been on my dream board since 2017. So when I mentioned to you a minute ago that I'm walking out the very last dream right now,
Yeah.
it's done. I built it.
Wow.
And so I not only help people in this course with their camera confidence and overcoming some of those mindset blocks that we talked about and coaching them through that process, but also, okay, now what? People don't know to ask me this question. They don't know to ask me, okay, Julie, now that I'm camera confident, now what happens? Like, what kind of content do I put out there? And then how do I know my content is going to be good? And what if it's terrible? So then I walk them through the process of how to create stellar content, how to make your videos look aesthetically pleasing, and then how you can get those videos to convert into business, into people taking action through the lens of the camera. So what do I have cooking? My website, you can go to my website, www.jules, instead of Julie, it's Jules, Jules, Altemus.com. And right when you get on my website, there's gonna be a pop-up where you can download a free guide that I have put together about camera confidence tips. And it's beautiful. It is so, there's so much information there that is valuable to you. So if you want that free resource, you can absolutely go get it. And then I will be releasing my digital course in February. So if people want to email me, that's hello@julesaltemus.com, then I will put them on my wait list. And I am opening the gates in February. And I'm going to do a live webinar. I've never done a live webinar before. Live doesn't scare me. Tech, that's a different thing. Maybe tech scares me a little. But anyway, I will be doing that, and I will only open the cart for 1 week so that I can bring those people in, love on them, nurture them, coach them through the 5 modules that I've put together, and then open the cart again later on in the year.
That is so awesome. You're gonna have to send me a clip or something. We're gonna have to work together on get that pushed out. So let's figure out how we can do that.
Absolutely.
After post, whenever you get it all ready to go. If you need somebody to help you promote it or advertise it, let me know. Okay.
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
Okay. I have a last segment I added to all my podcasts. It's called just a shout out to a person, an organization, an idea, or something along those lines. Just do a shout out to somebody that you want to say thank you to, or that you appreciate and value, respect, or just let you take it from there.
Shout outs. Wow. The very first thing that came to mind was 2 different groups. One, my Real Producers family. Jordan Espeseth and Lance Donahoe are the owners of the Real Producers magazine here in the DFW Metroplex. But just the opportunity of working with them, they're just great entrepreneurs, great human beings also. And then that opened my world into publishing. And that's just a fantastic organization. In fact, one of the vice president of Real Producers magazine is the same, well, it's Into Publishing, is the same person that's the co-executive producer of The Chosen. So just from the top down, the whole culture of the company is amazing. And then the other shout out would be to people that will probably never hear this podcast, and that's the 2 mentors that I follow online and who I admire so much, and that's Amy Porterfield and Stu McLaren. And Stu McLaren is all about memberships and helping people build memberships, and Amy Porterfield's the person that is all about helping people create digital courses. And what I love about them so much is that they're real people just like you and me, who are successful, who said yes to the challenge, who put one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, when you look back 10 years, 15 years, Amy Porterfield just crossed the $100 million mark.
Wow. From
saying yes, and started off just like you and me, doing videos in their room, with their little ring lights or whatever. Yeah. I know I'm a little ahead of that, but if just seeing those people who are so real, who show up for you to mentor you because they care about your success, and they don't even know you, they just have the same hearts that we do about people stepping into their fullness. That's my shout outs today.
Julie, it's a pleasure to have you
Thank
on
you.
Next Level Thinkers, a Charting New Horizons of Brilliance podcast. I think it was God ordained to have you come here and push me forward and say, you're just meeting her right now on Facebook right this second, but there was something exciting, inspiring, and motivating as you were speaking to the camera, that really resonated with me, and I said, I got to capture this moment, share what's inside her heart, mind, and spirit today on this podcast, and I'm so happy that God gave me that small, still voice to invite her. All she can do is say no, you know?
Correct,
I mean,
right?
you know what I mean? And I appreciate you saying yes to the invitation to come on the podcast. This is one of my favorite podcasts to host, and to have somebody with your acumen and your career and the trajectory you're going on the podcast is a blessing. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, that's it for Next Level Thinkers, a Charting New Horizons of Brilliance podcast. As I always say, have peace and enlighten you, and remember that the ocean refuses no river.
Next level, come and take a ride to the future where brilliance and power collide. Get on up now.